Yeah, so born and raised in New Zealand. I grew up playing rugby, did high school rugby, and then I came over to America. I went to America as an exchange student. Basically, every year they would bring over a couple of students from the high school that I was at, and they'd go for 3 months and do a rugby season in America. And yeah, one thing led to another. I was supposed to go 3 months and come back. The BYU rugby team and the football teams would use the same facilities and have the same strength and conditioning coach. And basically, the strength coach was like, you come over and give American football a go to the walk-ons and see what happens. And so I went to the walk-ons, and then they had chosen like 8 players every year. They give scholarships to walk-ons, and I was one of the 8. So I knew nothing about American football, so yeah, to go over there. The first game I ever went to, I was actually on the sidelines. So yeah, that gives you an idea of how much I knew about football. I didn't know anything, and so that first year that I was playing in college was basically I was on the scout team. So you don't play in any games. I was kind of learning, and so. But yeah, it grew on me, and I grew to love it. It was basically the coaches asked like, what's the easiest position basically that you think you can learn, and I said, well, either running back or fullback. So those are similar traits to rugby, where you're trying to spot a goal gap and then take it and run with the ball in hand. And then I ended up learning the position of fullback, which is a lead blocker for the running back, and yeah, basically that's how it was. It was basically the easiest position to learn. I actually thought that as well, that football was soft because well, not soft, but it wasn't as bad because they had the pads on. But yeah, they equal out to about the same, to be completely honest. So you have the pads on, but you're going in like at a a little more aggressive, not aggressive, but not as much technique because you're leading with the head. And so I'd say they equal out to about the same in physicality. Yeah, I was on my senior year, and then I had a couple agents just approach me and ask, what are my plans? Would you be interested in trying to give it a shot and see where it goes? And so it was never my intention, but post-season I did it's called the pro day. So you go and do all of your tests, your sprint test and your bench press. And so yeah, following that, basically after the draft, I didn't get drafted, so I got signed on to Arizona as an undrafted free agent. And then yeah, that was the gate basically into the NFL. When I was a rookie, they have their preseason camp, and then they have basically training camp, and that's where they cut the team down from 90 players to 53. And so I was in the final cuts and ended up getting released from Arizona. And then following that, the teams have like 24 hours to claim players that have been released. And so Chicago was the team that claimed me and added me to their practice squad for the season. And then so that was my rookie season. And then my second season with Chicago, I was on the active roster and did 12 of the 16 games. And yeah, I was able to experience it, life in the NFL. It was crazy, mate. And it was more like, because the goal was to get on the active roster that season, and so that was 2016. And so yeah, Houston was our first game. It was an away game at their stadium, and I can just remember being like, wow, this is such an amazing experience just to be on the field and to be padded and going against some of the top players in the NFL. And so I really enjoyed the experience. Yeah, obviously JJ Watt was their defensive end. He was one of them, he's always a threat for them. So that year we had Jordan Howard was the running back. He was a big name. And then Jay Cutler was the quarterback. And yeah, those are probably two recognizable names to NFL fans. Yeah, they were all aware I came from rugby. And so they were just really curious. Not as much like they wanted to play, because they all thought it was like the craziest sport on earth. But a lot of them were curious. How do you pass the ball and whatnot, and especially in college as well. A lot of Americans are curious about it, and it's growing over there, so it's good. I got released from Chicago in 2017, and then that was the year that I decided to come back and give rugby a go. And like you said, it can be stressful on a family, and so bouncing around from team to team, and so I wasn't really keen on doing that. And that's when I signed with the MLR team and try to see my chances in coming back into rugby. Actually, my first game back from taking 3.5 years off was with USA. So it was against Chile. and then I did the MLR. So yeah, it's crazy how that worked out. Athletically, a lot of the rugby boys will keep up with American football players. It's just, learning the game would be the hardest thing. It's hard, man. So I grew up playing rugby, so it's a bit different than like someone growing up in America and trying to come over to play rugby. So I think there's just two, yeah. In sevens, yes. Not in 15, probably not so much. Some of the boys do the fantasy football league and stuff like that. So some of them know American football more than I do. So, or Kyle Sinclair, he loves American football. James Chisholm, like a lot of those boys are like they know quite a bit about football, and so it's good to just chop it up with him. Matt Simmons, he loves American football. Yeah, I have a couple players that I played with in college and then in Chicago. So. Raheem Mostert, he's a 49ers running back, so I played with him in Chicago. And then Danny Sorensen, who's a safety for the Kansas City Chiefs. And so I'm split on it, to be honest. If I had a gut feeling, probably I think the 49ers will win, but yeah, we'll see on the day.